Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail, dirtbags and hiker trash. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Let's start off with a reminder. If you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute, help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. This week, we are talking to a triple crowner who is going to take a nice long walk for a good cause. Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod, Sam Conley. How's it going, Sam?
Pretty good. It's yeah. Every time you go through that and go, if you enjoy it or if you don't enjoy it, keep it to yourself. I don't know if you've ever listened to the Normal Cast, like a climb podcast. Dude, your voice and the way you say it sounds exactly like the host of that podcast. It is mind-blowing. I always think I'm listening to that podcast for a second. It's crazy.
Nice. Now, being a triple crowner, you've got some serious trail miles under your feet. I imagine that you have picked up a trail name along the way.
Yes, Ramen King.
Ramen King. You know, I told that to my oldest daughter this morning as I was getting ready for the podcast. And, you know, she said, is there any connection to Kylie Jenner? I'm like, what does that mean? Kylie Jenner. What's the connection with the Ramen King? And she says, oh, she's known as the Ramen Queen. So have you found your queen yet? I guess is the question.
No, not in the sense of food, but that's the first time I've ever heard that. Wow.
Yeah,
I normally
same
get
here.
Ramen King, and they go Robin, and I go no ramen like the food, and then I normally get chuckle.
Never a Kylie Jenner follow-up question.
No, that's the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, we go by trail names on the podcast here. So Sam, from now on, you are going to be referred to as the Ramen King throughout the rest of the episode.
You can do that or just ramen. Usually how it ends up getting shortened.
That's right. That's right. In case of emergency out on the trail, you have to have a shorter version of those longer trail names.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you go with all the syllables, you know, it could be too late. So
yeah, you never know. Bears coming at you, they yell Ramen King, and by the time they get the ing out, you're missing a leg.
You're missing a leg. Yeah. Yes. All right. Hey, Ramen, have you had a chance to listen to the podcast before?
Yeah. Yep. I've listened to Quadzilla's, Chili Max, Captain Caveman, and then Dynash told me that Slider was on apparently. So I feel like I gotta go back and find that one because I didn't know that she was on it.
Okay. So you are familiar with a segment we have towards the end of the episode called the Pro Tip Insight of the Week. That's where I'll turn to you and ask you to share some trail wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. So don't be surprised. And of course, you are expected to drop trail wisdom throughout the episode, but you will be on the hook for that final one at the end.
All right.
Okay.
The must bring gear review.
And that brings us to the must bring gear review, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company 6 Moon Designs. And here's how it works, Ramen. If you were to let a stranger pack your bag with pretty much generic gear for a multi-day hike, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? And if you've got a particular brand for that specific piece of gear, even better. So, Ramen, what's your must bring piece of gear?
As a photographer, the camera. I actually have it right next to me, just kind of laying on my bed. My camera. But other than that, my partner, who's actually going to hike the PCT, they give me a lot of crap for it. But the pillow, never going anywhere without my inflatable pillow. No specific brand. I've jumped all over the place. I usually just go with whatever the cheapest option is. They all work the same. I think mine right now is like $5 on Amazon, whereas the one I did, the 18 PCT, was like $50 at REI. I stand by, they're exactly the same. So my inflatable pillow.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's a good one because, you know, I've talked to people who swear by, oh, you just put your clothes in a stuff sack or just use your jacket. And I've tried that. It's not the same. Pillow's like a game changer out there in terms of comfort. It's a cheap option. It doesn't weigh a whole lot.
Yeah. And it's like I've used puffies and stuff like rolled into the hood. Then what happens if I have to wear the puffy at night? And then I don't have a pillow. And if you're able to use clothes as a pillow, I think you're bringing too much clothes up. You don't need that much clothes.
Oh, there you go. That almost sounds like a pro tip right there. That's good. Very good. How many changes of clothes do you usually bring? Let's say for a long trail. I mean, how many changes of clothes did you have on a long trail?
I sleep with all my hide clothes on. They never really leave my body unless I'm doing laundry, to be honest. So I hike with a sun hoodie, shorts. I do bring 2 pairs of boxers. I know some people go boxerless and just use what's in the shorts. I do that. So I wear one, and then I'll do like 2 days on, 2 days off for them. And then I got 2 pairs of socks. Let's see. Usually a beanie or like some sort of warm hat. And then a puffy. And then, so really the puffy and long underwear are the only extra things I bring.
Okay.
Maybe gloves, but that's about it. And then on the CBT, I did bring out a synthetic layer as well to wear. So I had a puffy and a synthetic layer.
Okay. My goal on the longer hikes is to not wash the clothes, get them in such a state that they are actually walking by themselves. It helps with the miles.
I have a lot of photos of my socks just standing right side up. Like, no, it looks like my feet are still in there. You still see the dents of my toes and everything. And it's just, those definitely don't feel good to put on in the morning.
Especially when they're frozen.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
That wakes you up, gets you going. All right. Hey, we've got another feature that we use to help us talk a little bit more about gear and other things related to hiking.
It's the hiking poll.
The hiking poll, yes. So it's a 7-question survey that I'm going to ask you to put you. I want to know who I'm talking to in terms of sanity. This is going to help me give you a score of 1 to 100 on the sanity scale, with 100 being completely sane and 1 being completely bonkers. And of course, as a long trail thru hiker, triple crowner, there's an automatic 20-point deduction. So the highest score you can get is 80, because we already know that you're a little crazy. Fair enough?
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, here we go. 7 questions, easy. First one, trekking poles or no trekking poles?
I go with trekking poles, although toward the end of the CBT, I definitely started stowing them away a bit more just because it was so flat to really see a need for them. And then also one broke, and I still have to carry it because I used a tarp, which obviously we'll get to that in a second. But I had to carry it because that's how I pitched my tarp. Never needed to pitch it again because it never rained. So, but yeah, I'd go trekking poles 9 out of 10 times.
9 out of 10 times. Okay. 9 out of 10 thru hikers recommend hiking poles. Boots or trail runners? What's on your feet?
Trail runners. Yep. I wore boots. I went through 2 pairs of boots on the AT. And then I think by Tennessee's when I swapped to trail runners, and then I was like, wow, I have made a big mistake. I could have made the first X amount of miles so much easier. So
do you think that's a trend? You think that's a pattern that most people get into hiking, through hiking, and they say, I feel like I have to wear boots. I've heard about boots. I need to wear boots. And people kind of migrate from boots to trail runners once they've been, so many miles on the trail.
Yeah. I think part of that, and also maybe they see somebody I don't know, Instagrammers or YouTubers using trail runners, and oh, there must be someone behind this. And then you realize just how comfy they are and how well they do work. Unless you have some pre-existing injury that prevents you, or that you need boots in that support for. I twist my ankle on the daily, even in my daily life, and never needed any sort of over the ankle shoe.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see if you have a weak ankle, maybe, but I have no idea.
Right. Now, in your time on the Triple Crown hikes, what percentage of people were wearing boots out there as opposed to trail runners?
Probably less than 10%, I would say.
Yeah.
You definitely stuck out. Whenever you saw someone with boots, you're like, oh, the person wearing boots. Weird. And I won't lie, I think the immediate assumption is that they're probably not through hiking. Because people do start out with boots, and I think they quickly do swap and then they never go back.
Yeah, I think that there is just from people I've talked to and the hiking pole repeatedly, I think my impression is that there is a certain small percentage of people who swear by boots and they'll always have boots. That is their MO. That's their comfort level. It's worked for them and good for them. But I think, so of that 10%, I'm thinking probably 5 to 7% of those maybe new hikers who thought they needed to start with hiking boots, and they're going to swap out at some point. The other maybe 3 to 5% are the hardcore boot wearing folks out there. So
Yep.
if you're thinking about getting out there and doing some long distance hiking, and you think that you need to wear boots, and you're listening to this right now, reconsider that. Take a look, try on some trail runners. They are, I think the old saying goes that an extra pound on the foot is 5 more on the back.
Yep.
So
that's exactly what I've heard as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, how about your preferred shelter system? Tent, tarp, hammock, bivvy, or cowboy camping? Lots of choices there.
All right. Well, if weather's good, I will always choose cowboy camping. And then I go back and forth on the tent tarp idea. So the long trail, Colorado Trail, and CT, I use tarp. For the PCT and AT, I did use a tent. I think it depends on if I were to do the AT again. I think I'd use a tarp just because there's the shelters. Assuming you're not in the bubble the whole time, the shelters are always available, always there. Never had an issue with them, especially going southbound. So I'd go with the tarp just as a backup. PCT, I had a big time. I started with a Tarp Tent Pro Trail, which phenomenal tent. I used the entire AT, so I used it for the AT and the PCT. Started PCT with it. Quickly realized it is really hard to get good stakes in the desert down there. Either it's just like light layer of sand and hard rock, or like just soft sand and one gust of wind is gone. So around mile 300, I did switch to a freestanding tent for that trail. And then after that, into Colorado Trail and Sky, I'll try the tarp. That seems a good way to save some weight. So I went with an 8x10 tarp and did the whole trail. Loved it. Thought it was a little too big. So for the long trail and CDT, I switched to a I think I should know this, but I think it's 7 feet in width in the front, 5.5 in width in the back, like where the feet go. I want to say 8 or 9 feet long. That was a little too short. I think I'd go back to the 8x10.
Okay.
But yeah, it would goes. I definitely prefer the tarp over tent, but if it's where I know I'm going to have trouble staking it, I'm going to do tent.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the shelter life on the AT. I mean, what are the advantages and disadvantages of communal living in a shelter along the trail?
It's dirty. First of all, it's you don't really have any privacy. A lot of mice. Occasionally, some shelters you'll like hear them, if your head's on the ground, you'll see them scurrying all night. They'll run over you sometimes. I've definitely slapped a mouse off my face while I slept.
Oh,
and like I hit it, and then you hear like a thud and hit the wall across the shelter. And then you kind of gotta give it. What bothers me sometimes is people who get upset if people show up late or leave early in the shelter to wake you up. I think there should be an accepted, like, if you're using the shelter, people are going to show up late, people are going to leave early. You kind of have to deal with that. You probably have a shelter. You can set up your tent or a tarp or whatever, hammock, and not sleep in the shelter if you want. But the shelter's quick, easy, and I think as a communal living area, you have to expect people to show up after sunset and leave before sunrise and not be upset.
Right. Now, as you were talking about slapping that mouse, I thought that'd be a good trail name, Mouse Slapper. But I realized that in the beginning part of this episode, I did not ask you about the story behind your trail name, and that's always intriguing to me. So tell us about. I was too preoccupied by are you related to the Ramen Queen? Tell us about how you got your trail name, Ramen.
So I did the AT with my good buddy. His trail name is Fuzzy. Right out of high school, me and him are high school friends. Still talk to this day. His car actually got broken into by a bear in Lake Tahoe, but that doesn't really matter. So right out of high school, had no money. I did the entire AT on a budget of like $2,200. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just eat ramen the entire time, oatmeal and ramen, and that's it. So going 100 miles, I had 2 1-gallon bags of ramen, and we were sitting in the shelter, and someone's making ramen. I'm like, oh man, I love ramen. And they pointed at me, and at the time it was like, hey Sam, show this person how much ramen you have. So I pull out 2 1-gallon bags of ramen that's not even crushed up, literally just blocks of ramen, and like something out of like a cartel movie, but with ramen. And they pull it out, and it's just like they look at me like, oh, you're like the king of ramen, Ramen King, and then it just stuck. That was like day 3 or 4 or something on trail, and it just stuck ever since. And then quickly got really tired of ramen. I think like I don't know, a month and a half later, I stopped eating ramen, and I didn't eat ramen again until like Oregon on the PCT. But the name just stuck. I could not eat it. And even to this day, I'm just like, I'll carry one with me just because it's like good to throw in and soak up some extra water along with mashed potatoes. But definitely not a fan of ramen.
Yeah, the trail, if you're not careful with your food choices out there, the trail can ruin certain food items for you.
Yeah. The only food I've gotten tired of was ramen and Nora's pasta and rice sides. But other than that, I probably eaten like top 5% like Snicker eater in the world, probably. I've eaten a lot of Snickers. Actually, I don't know if you can see my food bag back here. Where is it? Here it is. Hanging up on the wall, but it's a custom-made Ramen King food bag that the Ramen King is in Snickers font, and it's got Snickers all over it.
Nice. Now, top 5% of Snicker eaters in the world. That's a bold statement, Ramen.
I put money on that. Yeah, I put money on that.
In order to qualify, in order to get to that rare air of Snickerhood, how many Snickers do you have to eat daily?
So on the PCT, for a majority of it, I'd say I was eating about 6 to 8 Snickers a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Towards the end of the AT, I was eating probably 4 to 6 a day. Colorado Trail was also 6 to 8. Long Trail, probably about 6. And then CDT, definitely leaned off it a bit, but probably it was still up there. Definitely still
dropped it down to 5.5.
Yeah, it used to be I would just buy Snickers, but then it became I would buy whatever was less than $1 a bar. So I definitely got a reputation of being the cheapest in the group.
Frugal. You gotta make that dollar stretch.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and were Snickers, are they on the pricier end of the candy spectrum?
They're definitely less likely to be on sale, I would say. But when they are, that is definitely if it's like 98 cents a bar, or sometimes it's like 2 for $1, I'll definitely go with that over anything else.
Okay, now I know you're taking a hike for a cause, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. But Have you thought about being sponsored by Ramen and Snickers? I mean, it's right up your alley.
If anyone knows someone in the marketing for those two companies, I would gladly take on that sponsorship. I'm sure. I wonder if Snickers does sponsor anyone. That'd be cool. I would accept that.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the poll here. Sleep system, sleeping bag or quilt?
Definitely quilt all the way. I sent home my quilt and bought a sleeping bag on the CDT because my quilt had 6,500 miles on it and was not providing a lot of warmth. It's a 20 degree, probably when I sent it home was rated at 50 degrees. And the only thing I found was a sleeping bag. So I was like, I'll buy a sleeping bag, First week out, definitely solidified quilt all the way. I toss and turn a lot, and I'm a side sleeper, and the quilt makes that so much easier and comfier.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Hey, this next question, Ramen, is very dangerous. Big point deduction is possible here, so be careful. When it comes to food, I know you're a Snickers guy. I know you're a ramen guy for a little while, but when it comes to food, are you stove, cold soak, or stoveless?
Definitely stove.
Okay.
Yep.
Safely navigated. Very good.
Yep.
Need to have that hot meal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever tried cold soaking ramen and given that a shot?
No, I've tried cold soaking instant mashed potatoes. I ate them out of the bag one day because it's so windy, and I was like, I don't really want to try to light my stove. It's like I don't want to build a wind screen. It's too much right now. Let's just cold soak it. I half a bag of Idaho wings and then packed the rest out and threw them in the trash can. It was disgusting. So bad.
All right. I have 2 more questions. Life is better above or below the tree line?
I definitely prefer it above until the weather gets crappy, then below. But definitely above. I would go with above.
Okay. I'm noticing there's a lot of kind of it depends answers from you.
Yeah.
Gotta know the situation, gotta read the situation and act appropriately.
Exactly.
Okay. And last question, do you pack for comfort or speed? What's your base weight?
I don't actually know what my base weight is with the camera. I mean, the new camera's a lot lighter, probably like 75% of the weight or maybe 50% of what my last one was. But my base weight, if I were to guess, before the camera and camera battery and charger were added, I'd probably say I was bouncing about 10 to 12 pounds would be my guess. I'd say I fall fall in the middle of comfort and speed, where like the long trail, I try to do as quickly as possible. So I definitely give up some comfort in that aspect. But for through hikes, definitely more in the middle. I want to be able to go quick, but my logic is at the end of the day, I should be so tired and exhausted that I can sleep wherever I want in whatever position I want. So I go in the middle, definitely in the middle, because I'm not going to have that pillow.
Okay. Now I was going to say, I know your pillow is a luxury item. Do you have any other luxury items that you carry besides the pillow?
Remember, I do carry a journal actually. It's my long trail journal. I have one from every trail I've hiked.
Okay. Now, if you're listening to the podcast and you're not watching it on YouTube, hit pause. Go to the YouTube version. He's not holding up a journal that's like 400 pages, 8.5 by 11. It's like a little black book that you put phone numbers in. For our listeners out there who are familiar with little black books, I kind of just dated myself, I think.
But yeah, the one I used on the A2 was a lot bigger, and then when I did the PCT, I was immediately like, there's no need for one this big. So I've been buying the same books now for I think I have just 3 unopened ones laying around somewhere just in case.
Okay. Well, that was the hiking pole. Let me do some quick calculation here. I got to carry the 4. We're going to divide by the square root of 2, multiply by pi, making a slight adjustment for the atmospheric pressure on top of Whitney, and comes out to a 66. That's solid.
I'll take it.
It's a badge of honor right there. Now, depending on how the conversation goes, you could lose some points off of that, or you could gain some points. We'll see how the rest of the episode goes.
I think I have some stories where I'll probably lose some points.
Okay, perfect. Is one of your stories about the bear in the car in Tahoe?
Oh, I wasn't there. No, that happened 2 days ago. We woke up to a group Snapchat from my buddy who's house sitting for my friend Tahoe. He's like, oh, it's snowing outside, and the plow guy left a note saying a bear broke into your car, but he shut the door. It's okay. So
hope there wasn't too much damage.
Surprisingly, there was nothing. There was just a lot of snow in the car.
Okay. Well, in the grand scheme of things, it could have been much worse.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, Ramen, before we get too far down the trail, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about your background, where you grew up. Was camping and hiking, were those parts of your childhood growing up? Was that part of your family dynamic? And how did you get involved in the thru hiking cult? Because let's be honest, that's what it is. Any organization or group that gets you to sleep in the dirt for months at a time has got to be a cult. No judgment. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying what it is.
Actually, no, that was not part of my growing up at all. My mom was a little outdoorsy. My dad definitely not so much. I mean, he's very much in sports. He was a basketball coach for probably my entire life. He actually stopped coaching a year or 2 ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in Belleville, Massachusetts. It's actually funny. Apparently, the author of the book that Chili Mac recommended when he was on your podcast, he grew up in the same town, and I had no idea. But right outside of Boston, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes west driving to get to Boston, or to get to Belmont from Boston. And then my best friend Jack, who I started hanging out with maybe 8th grade, middle school. He got me into climbing, and then from there, his family was very outdoorsy, so he took us all climbing occasionally. And then I think the week before our senior year in high school, he was like, oh, let's go to Mount Greylock. I was like, sure. So me, him, and our buddy Dylan all did Mount Greylock. We were planning, I think. We drove out there, slept in the car, trailhead. And I remember just being so anxious sleeping in the car and trailhead. I was like, oh, this is so sketchy. Yada, yada, we're going to die. Funny because I now do that all the time. But
little did you know
exactly.
that, hey, sleeping in the car, that's luxury.
I love sleeping in my car. And then we woke up at just after sunrise, did Mount Greylock, halfway up, or I think 0.5 from the top. There's this little cobblestone shelter on this little pond, and it started raining, so we slept in there that night. And we sitting there hanging out. I don't know, maybe around 9 p.m. sunset, it's dark out. This headlamp comes up. We're like, oh my god, it's a stranger. And he knocks hey, can I come in? We're like, yeah, sure, dude. So he comes in, sits down, we were talking a little bit, and he pulls out the AWOL guide. And I'm seeing this, I was like, oh, that's weird. Huh. And my friend's talking to him, Jack's talking to him. He's like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just doing a section from I'm going to Connecticut to Katahdin on the Appalachian Trail to finish my hike. I'm like, oh, cool. And I was like, oh yeah, totally. And I have no idea what he was talking about. Wow,
You're playing it off. Fake it till you make it, man. That's right.
Oh, I do that all the time. And if people tell me stuff, like, yeah, cool. I don't know what they were talking about. But he left. He's like, oh, I'll do another 2 miles to another shelter. I'm like, all right, bye. And then he left, and I turned to my buddy's like, what is he doing? My buddy's like, oh, he's hiking on the Appalachian Trail from Connecticut to Maine. I was like, that's crazy. He's like, oh, well, it actually runs from Georgia to Maine. I was like, who the hell would ever want to do something like that? And that was summer of 2015. And then fast forward about a year and 3 months later, I finished my thru hike. So it quickly went from being like, wow, that's crazy, to I've been sitting in my class in school, and I didn't actually finish. I actually dropped out of high school like with very few months left, just because I missed so many classes. I will get into it later, but anyway, I dropped out. So I quickly knew I was like, I'm not going to go to college anyway. Like, I don't really want to, but so I'm like searching stuff. I was like, I'll go hike the AT. Maybe when I'm on the AT, I'll figure out what I want to do. And so I left. Or I'm Googling it, and it quickly turned from, oh, this is something cool, to, okay, I'm going to do this. So that hike I was talking about was September, and then I left in June. So I don't know how long that is, but
9 months about. Yeah.
Yeah. So it went from never hearing about it to 9 months later, starting a thru hike with my buddy. And we both finished. So
I always find that fascinating when I'm talking to somebody who's done one or more of the American long trails. When was that moment of awareness where they first discovered that these things exist? And it's almost like, a seed is planted, or, it just kind of tunnels into you and takes over until you are compelled to take it on. And that it's always, a lot of times it's a moment where they come across a thru hiker when they're out on a day hike, maybe, or a shorter hike. And they're amazed at that this thing exists that goes from Georgia to Maine, or from Mexico to Canada, and you can walk that entire length, and it quickly becomes an obsession, like you said.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's it quickly turns from, okay, I'll do this one, I'll do the AT, and maybe I'll figure out what I want to do. And like halfway through the AT, I'm already thinking about gear for the PCT, and when we get the PCT. And then I remember when it started the CDT, I told Chili Mac, and the guy who started with Chewy, and Chili Mac's girlfriend at the time, I was like, yeah, the Triple Crown will be like my last, the CDT will finish up the Triple Crown and be like my last like 5-month-long journey. And I think at that time, I meant it at the time. I'm like, I'll still want to do other thru hikes at the AZT and stuff like that. That's maybe a month and a half or less. But I don't want to do a 5-month-long hike or something. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. And then like halfway through the CDT, I was like, yeah, that was definitely a lie. That's not the case.
All right. Hey, some other follow-up questions for you about what you just relayed there. Number one, you're from the Boston area. We here in my family, we were Patriot fans in Southern California because at the time my son was little, like 5-6 years old. There was no football team in LA. And so he just kind of gravitated towards the Patriots. They were very successful back in the early 2000s. And so we quickly as a family kind of latched on and became Patriot fans. And so I want to get your perspective. Are you about the whole Tom Brady situation? Are you a Tom Brady fan now that he's left? Are you like, okay, I'm never going to speak of him again? Or what's the vibe there?
My dad actually owns a sports bar, and because they expect me to actually watch sports and know about them, I follow very little. The only time I'll ever sit down and watch a sports game if it's like Super Bowl, playoffs, championships, anything like that, I might go and watch, or I'll pay more attention to it at work. Other than that, I'll only see it if there's a game on during my shift. But yeah, no, he's a phenomenal athlete. I don't really care either way, but yeah, He's from what I've seen and read, because again, don't really watch anything, he's probably one of the best quarterbacks out there. But it was I've gone to a few games. They're always fun to see live, but Yeah, definitely don't have any feelings either way.
Okay. So I'm interested. I know that some folks back there are diehard Patriots and they felt abandoned by Brady. And so they will, they'll never root for him again. And I know other people who also are diehard fans who are very appreciative of, what he did for the team and, how many Super Bowl championships they won. And, they'll always pull for Tommy. So it's interesting to see the different attitudes there.
From what I've seen, my dad and his friends, the moment, I think last year, the moment the Patriots are out of the playoffs, or if they didn't even make it to the playoffs, they immediately started rooting for the Seahawks. I think, right? That's where he joined?
No, he's with the Tampa Bay
Buccaneers. Yeah, that one. Buccaneers. They immediately started rooting for the Buccaneers. So that shows how much I know.
Now, when your friend's family took you climbing, you said took you climbing. So was that rock climbing or was that like multi-pitch climbing? What kind of climbing was that?
So my buddy and his family are super athletic, but my buddy would start taking us to like the rock gym. And my mom took me a few times like when I was younger, and I loved it, but I just never went a lot. So then once one of us could drive, we all got memberships. We started going to the rock gym, and then he was like, "Oh, let's go up to Rumney, New Hampshire." We started climbing Rumney, New Hampshire a little bit. And then there's a place called it's a big quarry. It's a big quarry near our house, like just bolted routes and stuff like that. But we set up like top rope anchors and go mess around there. Super fun. And it's like looking back at it now that I know a lot more of the systems, like I was surprised nobody died because those anchors were definitely not up to par for what they should have been. But yeah, we did a lot of outdoor stuff. Mostly it's like top roping. Didn't really get into sport climbing until like 2017 when I lived in Colorado for a little bit. But yeah, a lot of gym climbing as well.
Got it. Now, you've mentioned the sports bar. One of my questions is, how do you finance your adventures? What do you do to pay the bills? Is that your primary source of income for funding your adventures?
Yeah, I work there. I work Tuesday double, Wednesday double, and Thursday morning, and every Thursday night. And then now that my partner's away and I'm not going to New Hampshire, I'm just taking as many shifts as possible because I'm leaving like 20 days or so. But yeah, so I worked there, and then I started to make some money from photos. So like Chili hooked me up with Hyperlights. I've been working them a little bit, and then I've been selling some photos. I don't know, I have some prints up here on there's one print.
Nice.
Or something. But yeah, I saw some prints on the side, and then but yeah, my main source of income is definitely I'm a server bartender at my dad's restaurant, but that's hopefully this is the last season. We'll see.
And you're the second bartender in that I've talked to in a couple of weeks here. So we're developing a new trend here on the John freaking Muir pod.
You can get jobs anywhere, and it's very easy to leave.
Yeah. The other guy I talked to, he said, I spent a lot of time behind bars. I made it sound like it was a prison sentence, ex-con. So he's a funny guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Behind bars.
That's what I would imagine. That's what I would assume right off the bat as well.
All right. Hey, you want to give a shout out to the name of the sports bar?
Conley's Pub and Grill in Watertown, Massachusetts.
Conley's Pub and Grill. There you go. So if you're listening to this and you want to get a sense of where Ramen King spends some of his time when he's not out on the trail, go to Conley's. Pub and Grill, right? Conley's Pub and Grill. Yes. Okay. Now we've done a little bit of name dropping here in our early conversation. We do have some common acquaintances. You have interacted and know some people that have been on the podcast before.
Yes. So like Chili Mac, actually, he mentioned me on Instagram when he was starting the AT, or he was already on the AT, to ask some questions because I hiked the year before him, and then we were like kind of on and off. Like I did photography, he did photography. We post photo, and like, that's a cool photo for maybe 4 years, and then he posted on the CD. He posted like, I'm gonna do the CT this year, southbound. I'm like, and the person I was gonna hike it with just failed because they ended up getting pregnant with their husband, so they couldn't hike it. But I was like, yo, when are you starting? Or starting with anyone? And he was like, I'm starting this date now. And I was like, well, if you don't hike a partner, let me know, because like the person I was hiking failed. And that ended up working out. It's funny, like cool, let's start with this date, just like a random date. Threw it out mid-June. Cool. And like months go by, we didn't talk to each other at all. And like 2 weeks before starting, I'm like, yo, still on? He's like, yeah. It's like, all right, cool. And then we ended up meeting in Glacier with the idea of just getting through Grizzly Country together and then maybe going separate ways, but ended up becoming best friends and doing the entire trail together. So that worked out surprisingly well. Yeah. And then I got Captain Caveman. Hiked a bit with him. Super cool guy. So I think we hiked from pretty much like New Mexico down together, I would say. Maybe a little bit more north. Quadzilla, I didn't hike with him too much, but Leapfrog talked to him a bit. Great dude. I talked to him a bit on Instagram during his calendar trip counter right now. He's absolutely crushing it.
Yeah,
and then and I know you said you talked to Dine Dash, so I've actually been playing a lot of video games with him. Me and him both got the Oculus VRs, so
nice.
Yep. A lot of mini golf on that, and then Slider we hiked with her. So I don't know if that she's on the podcast. I've got to go back to listen to that one.
Slider, what's her? I don't remember talking to a Slider.
Oh, maybe she wasn't on it. The Dine Dash said she was, but I didn't think she was either. She plays the trombone. No, yeah. All right, so maybe she wasn't. Yeah, so Dine Dash was wrong.
You know, I'm old, so maybe I'm just forgetting. But I don't. That doesn't sound familiar. Now, if Slider, if you're listening to this and you were on the podcast, I totally apologize, but it's just I'm getting old. Dine and Dash, I had fun talking to Dine and Dash. He was gearing up to do the calendar year Triple Crown, and that was kind of the focus of our episode. And then he decided that he was not going to give that a shot this year. So I pulled his episode. So if you're wondering out there, hey, where's the Dine and Dash episode? It's in the archives right now. It's not ready for publication because he's not doing the calendar year Triple Crown.
He did just fly out to the PCT though this morning.
Okay.
So he's starting, I think, either tomorrow or in 2 days.
Okay, so instead of doing all three, he's just focusing on the one.
Yep.
And some other side adventures, maybe. Got it. Okay. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your three long trails that you've done that made you a Triple Crowner. And we're also going to talk about your photography and talk about the cause. I know we've teased it a couple times. I'm going to talk about the big hike and what the cause is, and we'll hear about that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We were talking to Sam Conley, Ramen King, or just Ramen. I'm surprised it didn't just shorten to King. Is it King sometimes?
No, I've actually never had it that way. Nope.
You'd have the substance. I mean, the real important part of that two-word phrase is ramen, right? Of Ramen King.
Absolutely.
About the ramen. So got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now he is a Triple Crowner. You did the AT in 2016, and when you were halfway along, you are already plotting, how to get to the PCT. And when did you realize that you were going to be a Triple Crowner?
So I think around Pennsylvania, we met a guy named Data who was finishing his Triple Crown on the AT, who ended up becoming a great friend of mine. And he would talk about the PCT, and I didn't hear about the CDT until maybe I think 500 miles into the AT. I was going southbound, so I'm not sure exactly where, but the PCT I've heard on and off. And he would just talk about how beautiful the PCT was, and then how wild the CDT was. So at first I was like, yeah, CDT sounds kind of out of my comfort zone. I'm not really into that. But the PCT sounds a lot cooler. He was pretty much described it as the most beautiful views with the easiest hiking, and I was like, I like the sound of that. And then I think by I don't know, month 3.5, 4 on the AT, I was like, all right, I'm definitely gonna go for the Triple Crown. So
okay, so you're still on your first one when you decided I'm doing all three.
Yeah. I don't know when I would do it, but I knew I was gonna do the PCT soon.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple of people who have done 2 of the 3 and have no interest in doing the third one, but I think that's uncommon. I think that's uncommon. I think that most people who have done 2 of the 3, I mean, it's almost like, I am bound to do the third one. I've already done 2/3 of it. I want to be a Triple Crowner.
Yep. I've always heard you can do 1 and stop, and you can do 2 and stop.
Yeah, it's a rare breed. Rare breed that can do that. Okay, so AT in 2016, PCT in 2018, and then the CDT last year in 2021.
Yep.
Which one did you enjoy the most?
CDT, absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Yes. In terms of it just felt like there are times that it did truly feel like a wild experience.
Yeah.
PCT, most beautiful views, absolutely. I think PCT is the most beautiful, but the CDT just sorry. I'm going to say the CDT has the most beautiful views, but the PCT had beautiful views every single day. Where the CDT, there's some pretty boring sections in between the beautiful views. But and CDT just felt so wild, and the wildlife you see is incredible. The place you see, you just feel a lot more remote, and I think that was my favorite. It's like the experiences of it.
Now, are you familiar with Ginger Balls, Triple Crowner?
No.
He posts some great stuff on Instagram. You should look him up. He is a great guy. He's been on the podcast multiple times. He's got a lot of great stories. But he said, he did the Triple Crown, and the CDT was the last one. And he said when he was thoroughly frustrated by the first part of the CDT in New Mexico. He was going northbound, and he said, if I had started with the CDT, I never would have finished the CDT, and I never would have done another long trail, because he would have said, this is not for me. It's like the CDT is an acquired taste.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that a lot as well. And I went southbound, so it was a little bit different because you're starting in Glacier, which is absolutely spectacular, incredibly beautiful area. So that's a little different, but I definitely see starting northbound as your first hike going through southern New Mexico. It's like, wow, there's nothing here. It's just cactus and dead stuff.
Yeah, and water sources with cow patties.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And so that's interesting. You did the CDT southbound. How about the PCT, northbound or southbound?
I did northbound on the PCT and southbound on the AT. Southbound.
Southbound on the AT. So you've done two of the three from unconventional direction.
Yes. And I will say, I'd like to go back and do the PC southbound now, but with the fires every year, I don't think PC southbound is very viable anymore. It just doesn't seem like it is.
Yeah.
So.
Now the CDT is remote. I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere for the majority of that trail, and it's not as popular as the other two trails, right? And so even if you're doing it northbound, my understanding is you don't encounter a lot of people. And I have to imagine that going southbound on the CDT, you see even fewer people.
So most years, yes. I know Chili Mac, I talked about this a bit, but our year southbound was ridiculous with the amount of people. I've never seen more hikers in my life.
Oh wow!
It was definitely more populated than the AT southbound, and it rivaled the PCT northbound, I would say. I think we either got ahead of the crowd, or because there's so many different routes you can take, or because taking different routes is encouraged. Maybe like you don't see as much because you split off so quickly. But after the first, I'd say after Lincoln, we definitely started seeing a lot less people, which I mean, that's only 150, 200 miles in maybe. It's a second or third resplot depending on what you do. But when you're in East Glacier, the East Glacier Village, I think it is, there were so many hikers. It was just ridiculous. Like getting the permits for Glacier was a bit of a headache. We kind of lucked out, but some people had to go northbound through Glacier, even though they were hiking southbound. Some people zeroed at campsites. Some people had like a 5-mile day and then like a 35-mile day. Ours, we lucked out, and I think we had like one 18-mile day, but it was a very, very busy year. But I think most years that is correct. CDT southbound is extremely remote.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what are the logistics on your hikes? How many days did it take you on the AT? Do you have an approximation there?
Yeah, AT was June 15th to November 13th, so it was just under 5 months. The PCT was April 15th to August. So I always get this mixed up. It was either August 27th or August 28th because we had to tag the border and then walk back. So I don't know what day we actually tagged the border on or what day we walked back on. So that was just over 4 months. And then the CDT was June 23rd to November 3rd. So just under 4.5, I believe. Okay.
So you're putting in a pretty good clip then. I mean, you're not doing the 6th or 7th month. You're doing between 3 and 4 months.
I can't afford that like that long. Nor would I want it. I gotta mix up. It's like I gotta push myself a little bit, and I can't hike that slow. It's just like I enjoy views and stuff, but I'll come back and enjoy the views. If I'm out there to go from point A to point B, I want to challenge myself a little bit, and I'm okay with having short days here and there. But if every day was like a 10-mile day, I would lose my mind.
Yeah. And so, were there any points out there where you were like, "What am I doing out here?" you question your decision to be out on the trail, or you found yourself maybe in a dangerous situation?
Yeah, I think on the AT, I had a lot of, especially starting. I remember somebody got taught and got down to Rainbow Stream campsite. It was me, my buddy Fuzzy, and then the two friends who started with us, staged the 100 miles. I remember I finished, and I think if I had cell phone service, I probably would have called. I think I did try to call my mom to pick me up. This is day one or night one. Like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? Didn't have service, thankfully, because you're in Baxter State Park. Ended up in by day 3, 100 miles, and service is a lot less spotty than I expected. So I'm able to call people, talk to people. My girlfriend at the time, and it was more like, oh, okay, cool, I can talk to people. And then we started meeting more hikers and started making friends. And I was like, all right, this is a lot better. And then it just got better and better as it went on. And then I got Shin Splints in Virginia, going over, I think, Priest. And I ran out of food, so I have no food. I have Shin Splints. I can barely walk. I'm in tears the entire day. We're doing 25 miles. I sat on a rocket one day and just my head in my hands, and just sobbing. And these day hikers go by and yo, you okay? And in between breaths and tears, I'm like, yeah, I'm great. Thank you for asking. I'm doing well. And then I kept going. I'm just eating, nibbling on my Snickers bar because it's I have 2 scoops of peanut butter and that 1 Snickers bar left to do 25 miles. So I think those were the start of the AT and that part on the AT. I was like, what the hell am I doing out here?
Those are some rough moments.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When you have to respond in between sobs, that's a tough time. But obviously the longer you went, the easier it got, and the more accustomed you got to being out there on the trail.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hey, what was your highest mileage day?
That was on the Colorado Trail. So the girl I met on the PCT, she became my sister. She's great. Her and her boyfriend actually started the CDT this year in, I think, a few days or maybe a few weeks. But so I hiked for mile 300 at the end of the PCT with her. And then she lives in the Netherlands. So I was like, yo, come to the Colorado Trail. She's like, sure. And I think within the first day, she's like, oh, we never did that 2 marathon day that we were talking about with PCT. We should do it. I was like, yeah, totally. And my friend Data, who I mentioned before, who I met on the AT, he's doing the Colorado Trail with us. We met up with him in Twin Lakes. And leaving Silverton, we're leaving, and she's like, oh, let's do the 2 marathons. We're like, yeah, all right, 52.4 miles, let's do it. We leave, and in the first 2 hours, Data turns around and it's like, why don't we just, if we do the 2 marathons, we're only 27 miles from the end, we should just keep going. And we're like, all right, 86 miles in one go, yeah, we can do it. And I turned to Drop, I was like, yeah, Drop you in? She's like, absolutely. So we're going, 91 sets, some hallucinations, not too bad. And we keep going. And then I think we do the 2 marathons in she does it in 23 hours and 30 minutes. And I come in at 23 hours and 50 minutes. And the Data, I have a video of him running down the hill at 23 hours and 59 minutes. He just made the cutoff time. The cutoff time, but there's no. The makeup cutoff time. And we're like, cool. All right, 27 more miles or something like that. Let's keep going. And
so
that night,
hang on a second, Ramen. You did the two marathons in 23 hours, 50 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then you still have 27 miles left after that.
Yes. And we haven't slept yet.
And what kinds of hallucinations are you having? Do you remember?
So the first night was nothing too bad. At the corner of your eye, you just see a shadow move, and it's oh, nothing's there, right? Whatever. And you see that here and there. I'm nothing too bad. That first night was just shadows and stuff. Maybe you see something that looks like an animal, but it's just a log, or you see something that looks like a person, but it's just I don't know, a stick. But yeah, you're up at elevation. You're up 10 to 12,000 feet probably. Haven't slept. And then the next night, probably around I would guess mile 70, 73 without sleeping. I am literally falling asleep while walking, and my pace dropped. I'm in the front of the pack for some reason, and my pace has dropped to less than a mile an hour. And at one point, I turn around, somebody's going in front. So Dana's all right, I'll go in front, and then Drop into me. And I'm just looking at the ground, following Drop's footprints, or following her steps, and I'm going straight. And then all of a sudden, I see her turn right. So I turn right, and then she's crossing a log over a stream.
Uh-oh.
And I step on the log, and I shake my head, and all of a sudden, I'm just looking at a log. There's no stream. It's like she's not even near me. I've just followed hallucination into the woods, and I'm looking at this log that I'm about to step on. That's just a fallen log on the ground. There's no stream or anything. Drop's not there. Data's not there. And I turn to my left, and for some reason the trail was straight, but I made a sharp right turn to follow my hallucination. And Drop and Data are like 150 feet that way. I was like, oh my god! So I just like ran to catch up to them, and I'm like, that was wild. And I think I was like, I need to be in the middle now because I can't be in the back. And then I remember Data pulling out his phone to look at gut hook. And he pulls it out, and literally he just like starts falling over to catch himself. And I was like, dude, you okay? He's like, yeah, I think I just fell asleep standing up. and then so we're like, all right, coffee break. He's like, coffee break. So we sit down, we all make coffee. The moment I drink that coffee, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm wired, we're good. And everyone else is like, we're good. Just need that 5-minute break for some coffee, some food and calories. But I think that hallucination, I was like, oh, that could have been really bad. I almost just followed some random ghost lady into the woods.
That is wild.
Yeah,
that is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Now with these experiences and all these miles under your feet, ever given any thought to competing in the Barkley marathons?
If I got accepted, I think I would attempt it. I don't think I would ever apply to join, but if I did get accepted, I think I would. But I don't know how to. I imagine I'd fail after like 10 miles.
Yeah, I'm only asked that question because your story of following a hallucination reminded me of one of the competitors this year who had to tap out when he realized that he was asking a trash can in Frozen Head State Park for directions.
Yep. Carl's Saab or something. Carl Staub, I think it is.
Yeah, that's right. He was.
Yep. It's so good.
It's tough out there. Wow. So you ended up doing, is it 87 miles, 89 miles altogether at one stretch?
Actually, I don't entirely know. Whenever the stretch between Silverton to Rainbow is, it's like, I want to say it's like 83 or so.
Okay.
Whatever
the hallucination told you the distance was.
Yes. Yeah. And then Chili and I did like 65 and maybe like 18 hours or something. And
oh, wow. So that has to be your longest 24-hour stretch then is the
I think so.
You did with Chili.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. And we are going to keep going. We got shut down because of a thunderstorm. So we had to seek shelter and go to sleep.
Yeah. So how many thousands of miles have you done?
I think just including long trails or like day hikes and stuff, I think I'm around 85 to 8,700.
Okay.
Miles.
And do you have a favorite day or a favorite moment that stands out from all of those?
That's a tough one. I mean, there are so many days on the CDT that I think are like my favorite day.
Yeah. But
the one that always sticks out is on the PCT. We did a sunrise summit at Mount Whitney. I think that was definitely up there. That was really, really incredible. I remember like waking up at like 1 a.m. and we left camp late, but we were definitely faster hikers, so we caught up quickly. But we woke up and walked out of like each of our tents. We looked up and we see like just a line of headlights going up the switchbacks, and it just looked so cool. And then getting up there and watching the sun slowly peek over the high desert for the highest mountain in the lower 40, it was just so cool.
Right. Now, were you at Guitar when you woke up?
Yep.
Or were you in Crabtree?
Guitar Lake, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they have a new regulation that's just taken effect in the last couple of years where they're requiring the PCT hikers to not camp at Guitar Lake. I think they have to camp at Crabtree now.
I believe it. Yeah, it was. I do remember we walked by Crabtree, very long tents, and then we got to Guitar Lake, and there were also like, I don't know, 10 or 15 tents. And I remember thinking like, oh wow, there should not be this many tents right here. But I get on board with that. That seems very reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. And for our listeners out there, I hear that the sunrise hike of Whitney is just incredible. I would also like to pose that the sunset hike is also pretty incredible. I've done that a couple of times, and we've ended up being the only people up at the top during the sunset hike. So it's pretty epic. It feels like you're you're all by yourself up there, and just real powerful. So
that sounds sweet.
Yeah.
It was not.
How many people were up there on the sunrise hike with you?
Probably like 25, 30.
Yeah.
They're all PCD hikers, but still busy.
Right. And, we see images, pictures, videos from like Everest and how crowded that is, how many people, the line of people up there. And there are some points on the trail where I found myself on the passes in the Sierras, and there's a number of people up there and just kind of looking out and surveying and trying to pick, what's the next objective. And it feels like one of those mountaineering expeditions in the Himalayas. So
yeah, those photos from Everest are pretty nuts.
All right. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your we didn't talk about the long trail. What did you think of the long trail?
I mean, I did in 12 days with 1 0 day. So 11 days of hiking with 1 day off.
That's 273, 271.
Yeah, I think just over 270.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the exact mileage. I always forget I did that trail because it was just like so quick. It was like a blip on the radar. The northern section is really, really cool. And then the moment you get to the Appalachian Trail section, it's kind of boring. Partially because I already did it, and also because like the northern section, you have these giant, rugged, like Mount Mansfield, and I can't remember the other mountain, but Mount Mansfield, the hike up and down that is so cool. And then you get to the southern section that's on the AT, and it's just like blah. It's really not much going on there. So I rushed through that part. I started with a resupplied at Jonesville, and then I resupplied at in on the long trail, and then it the last 110 miles in I think like 2.5 to 3 days. But that was it was. If I would do it again, it's because I was going for some sort of record, I think. But it was okay.
Yeah. I mean, you were cooking there. I mean, that if you did it in 11 days with a 0, you're averaging like close to 30 miles a day.
The last day, our last 2 days, I think I did 37 miles and then like 48 or something like that. That was I tried to do it all in one go, the last 70 miles without sleeping, and then like 2 a.m. came around, and I was like, I can sleep. I can't keep going. I was tripping over myself, and just like I could tell I was falling asleep. I was like, I'm just gonna call it here. But I hiked that entire thing alone pretty much, and then the last 26 miles, this dude was like, "Hey, is that a Palante pack?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I take a look at it? I've never seen one." I was like, "Sure." And I'm like eating lunch, and this dude's like has so much energy. I'm like, "This guy's a little strange, but whatever." Nice dude. Gave him my pack. He's looking at it. I was like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "So where are you going to?" I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna finish." He's like, "That's 26 miles away." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to be done already. Like, I'm kind of over it. Like, I want to do it as quick as possible." He goes, "Cool, can I join you?" I was like, "Yeah, if you think you can keep up, man, you're more than welcome to." And next thing I know, this dude's like blowing me out of the water. I was like, "Holy crap, I cannot keep up with this guy." And then like this dude's like a little strange. And then like the more we talk, I'm like immediately I'm like, "Oh, this guy's like my best friend." And like to this day, we still talk all the time. Super cool dude. I'm hoping to see him this summer in New York when I'm walking. But like, ended up doing the last 26 miles together. We finished at like 1 a.m. And we finished at like 1 a.m. Got a motel room, and then like I walked with him to the next trailhead because he's gonna keep going up into the Greylock to finish his section of the AT. And so gave him a hug goodbye and just went our ways. But super cool dude. Ended up being like my best friend. Went from like this really hyper weird stranger dude to this guy's awesome. He's like double my age, has like 3 kids my age, and just all around great dude.
Yeah, so I think that's probably not out of the ordinary that there are a lot of good people out on the trails, a lot of interesting people, a lot of quirky people out on the trails, and that's all great. Yeah,
I'm sure I've come across that way to people as well. Although I'm usually pretty quiet and don't talk to strangers. I'm like mostly just because I'm just awkward. I don't like.
Yeah, somewhere on another podcast right now, there's a father of 3 saying, I met this quirky dude on the long trail. I asked him about his pack and how far he was going.
Probably.
All right. Hey, you mentioned your photography early on. Where can we find examples of your prints and how to purchase?
That's a good question. Everyone, if people purchase prints, they always just go to my Instagram, like screenshot and like, "Yo, I want to order this," and send it to me, and then I'll go to my files and mail it to them or whatever. But I do have a website. It's Sam Through a Lens. That's THRU, and I'm through hiking. So it's SAMTHRUALENS.com. And like I'm actually in the process of uploading all the CT photos right now. But yeah, I don't have a page. I probably should, like a purchasing page, but probably should. But yeah, it's so that's the website, and then I got Instagram, which is the same thing. And I have a personal Instagram, which is Sam Ramen King Conley. That's just like not my photography Instagram, but yeah.
Got it.
So that's where I post my photos.
Okay. Now you reached out to me a few days ago and said you've got this cause and you'd like to talk about this cause. And so we've mentioned it a couple of times, but let's get to the details here of the cause. What is the cause and what is the route that you're walking for this cause?
So starting May 15th, I will be walking from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Over the course of 100 days or less is my goal. And then biking back if I have the funds. But the cause, so this great man, Michael Pitney, or as he was known on trail, Waker, we hiked with him on the Appalachian Trail in 2018, or sorry, not 2018. In 2017, he did the Pacific Crest Trail southbound, and then in 2018, he unfortunately took his own life. And that was April 20th, 2017. I didn't hear about it until early May, when his, I guess, girlfriend at the time reached out to me, Fuzzy, and Ducks, because he hiked the AT with us, to let us know. But May 15th, in honor and memory of him, I will be walking coast to coast and raising money for Good Samaritans, which is a Boston-based nonprofit organization that provides life-saving suicide prevention services throughout the greater Boston and Metro West Massachusetts area. And all this, they do everything, all that stuff for free. My good friend's mom, I believe, her sister also took her own life, and she's been doing stuff with that charity now for years. So when I heard about it, I was like, oh, I'd like to help out. This is the first thing I've done for them, really. So I think it's a good way. So pretty much that's what I'll be doing it for. I know a lot of people, especially at work, that see me all the time, have asked like help me out and giving me money for my hikes, but just donate to the campaign I have going. That's all I ask, really. But yeah, because I mean, he was such a great dude that I didn't, and it's like, it's pretty much, whether you know or not, a lot of people are probably going through some shit.
Right.
And they're probably battling some demons. And so just, yeah, I think that's what it was.
So what was his name again?
Michael Pitney. His trail name was Waker.
Waker, Waker.
Yes. He did the Appalachian Trail in 2016 and the PCT in 2017. And I believe he's also done every 4,000 foot peak in New York and New England.
Wow. Yeah, you're exactly right. You never know what people are going through, what kind of baggage they're carrying, what kind of demons they're battling. A lot of folks out on the trails are processing stuff, working through stuff, and it's tough. It's tragic.
Yeah,
tragic. I'm so sorry to hear about Michael. You hiked the entire AT with him, or just a section of it?
Just a section of it. We ran into each other in Pennsylvania. And then he blew past us. This dude, I thought his name was Waker because he just left people in his wake because he was so quick. But so he passed us in Pennsylvania, I believe, and then we didn't see him again until the Shenandoah was during like a hurricane, and we got to a shelter and it's dumping out, and he's just sitting there reading his book. And he's like, yeah, I woke up, saw the rain. I'm like, I'm not hiking out in this weather. I'm like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have either, but here we are. So we also end up getting like from the Shenandoahs, maybe a few hundred miles southbound. We hiked like every day with him, got a few motel rooms with him. And then actually, I think, I don't know where, but we didn't see it. We ended up finishing with him. But he, I believe he unfortunately ended up getting off trail because the fires were so bad. And he wanted to do a continuous footpath, and there was 4 miles closed, which ended up being like 70 and then 150. But I remember seeing him, I think, in the Smokies. And then he found service to watch the World Series, the baseball World Series. So he's like, I'm going to sit here and watch it. All right, man, we'll see you tomorrow. And unfortunately never saw him again because he ended up getting off trail because of fires. And I unfortunately never actually got a chance to hang out with him or see him again. The winter of 2017, I remember he messaged me. 2017 going into 2018, he messaged me like, "Oh, dude, come to Killington, let's go snowboarding." And I think my biggest regret in life is not going on that trip because it was supposed to snow, and I hate driving in wet conditions. So like, hydroplaned my car and totaled it before, and I think that's something that I'll always regret is not going up to see him again. I never had the chance to. I believe Fuzzy got the chance to go snowboarding with him, and then 4 months later he took his own life. So, yeah,
so sad, so tragic. How can people help fund your campaign? Where can they go to donate?
I will have the link to the donation page on my Instagram, as well as during the walk. I plan on doing every 7 days. I'll make a post doing a quick little summary, miles walked, where I am, what I've gone through, pictures and stuff like that, along, and then just at the end of the post, I'll also have the link. But it is, I don't know if there's a shorter URL, unfortunately, but it's Good Samaritans is the organization.
Okay.
I don't know if you're able to Google this. I'm just gonna do a quick Google. Let's see. Sam. Let's see if that shows up. Unfortunately, no. All right, so I gotta figure that part out. But
okay,
I will have the link in my Instagram bio, and then hopefully I can find a way to shorten the URL for that as well to find that. But
got it. Now, what is the route that you're taking from east to west?
This is, let's see if I can. I'll just show you this, but honestly, just plugging in Google Maps. I plan on starting in Boston on the Atlantic Ocean in Castle Island, and then going to right outside of LA. Not exactly sure yet, but figure that part out. I just plugged in Google Maps, and then I imported the GPX file into Gaia. So I'll send you a JPEG of this, but I don't know if you kind of adjust. No, it's not really adjusting, but did that, and then my goal is to break it up into segments. So segment 1 will be from Boston to Buffalo, New York, and then try to right now, obviously Google Maps has you on roads, trails, or whatever, but I'm going to go into that and try to figure out how I can minimize road walking and see if there's any trails. I know there's a few long trails that run east to west in the Great Lake region, so hopefully I can hop on one of those for a few days and just get off roads. But I do expect it to be a lot of road walking and a lot of stealth camping. So it's going to be very different than anything I've ever done before.
All right. Hey, would you mind sharing your adventure with the John Freaking Muir Pod? Maybe every so often you could record a little audio segment for the podcast here about where you are in your trip. Send it to me when you have good cell, and I will include it on some episodes so our listeners can keep track of your adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that.
Okay. And when you get to LA in less than 100 days, reach out and let's hook up.
Yeah, if you want to do that, I'm trying to get as many people to do the first day with me as possible and the last day, just because I don't think anyone wants to do anything in between. But this is an outgoing offer to anyone who's listening. If you want to join me for however long as you want, whether it's the entire trip or it's a few days or just a day, reach out to me on Instagram. We can hook up and walk with me. Just keep you company. I'd love to have people join me here and there. Or if you want to just do the first part or the last part, that would be awesome. But that's a nice outgoing offer to anyone.
I will join you on the last day. Unless you're too fast, then I'll be in a car right behind you driving very slowly.
I have people, my friends are going to join me, and they're not hikers. So, or even biking. I have some friends who want to bike next to me on the first day, and that's welcome. That's more than welcome as well.
Okay. Hey, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Hey, Ramen, you know where we are?
The impromptu top 5.
Actually, we're gonna. Do you have a top 5 for us?
Let's see.
It could be a category of your choosing.
Oh,
top 5, whatever.
I'm gonna totally honest, and I totally misread all of this. Oh man, top 5. No, I don't. I was not.
Okay, then we're gonna skip the top 5.
Okay,
we're gonna skip the top 5. Instead,
The pro tip insight of the week.
That's right, half calf. We are at that time of the episode where I turn to our guest and ask him for a bit of trail wisdom to make our listeners' next outdoor experience even better. What do you have for us, Ramen?
Well, the first one that came to mind was, this is something I picked up on the PCT. Always check the GPS, gut hooks, or map or whatever before you go off to dig your cat hole and do your business. The amount of times I was like, oh, I'll get off trail, and you go up and over a hill or you go downhill, and you do your business, and all of a sudden you realize that someone's walking 20 feet away from you because the trail ended up doing a big loop. Always check if the trail's going to turn right, left, or go straight. Make sure it doesn't switch back. That's definitely something I've messed up there a lot. Yeah, definitely. And now I do that every time to pull Gaia or gut hook or whatever I'm using, and always double check. And then you can also see the towboat line, see if it's flat over there and you can actually walk, or if it's just a cliff. That's probably my number one tip. And then I actually have another one here.
I love tips. I love tips that have to do with doing your business. And, it is important because I think we've all experienced that moment of whether we've walked up on somebody or we've been the one, doing our business and then realizing, oh, the trail is like 3 feet away. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to do the right thing and do the LNT stuff, but then all of a sudden you quickly realize that you're right next to a trail. So because it's one to avoid the awkwardness of someone walking up on you, or you right next to the trail, and double dips into the LNT and you're still off trail.
Right.
But
all right, you have another one for us? We get two for the price of one. Nice.
Yes. Don't be afraid to especially for long trails, like take a different path and go somewhere, because the AT is very strict on you follow the AT and you don't get off trail. PCT a little bit iffy on that, like Crater Lake. That's a separate. You don't see Crater Lake if you follow the red line, but if you get off trail and you see Crater Lake, everyone takes that. The CDT is like do whatever the hell you want. Right. And I think that should be accepted across all trails. Like the AT, if there's something cool off trail that you want to go see that cuts off a mile or even adds 5 miles, who cares? Go do that. And it's just I think that's where the adventure comes from. Captain K-Man and I had a discussion on this once in the CDT. We're looking at the map and I was like, oh dude, this looks like there's a trail this way. It cuts off like, I don't know, a quarter mile, but it's also not the official trail. I was like, let's do it. He's like, I'll always do that, whether it's a road walk or nothing, whether it cuts miles off or adds miles, just because the moment you step foot off trail, you're into the unknown in terms of, is there trail here? Is it maintained? You don't know what the water's like. You don't know what the resupply is like. You don't know where you're going. Whereas if you follow the red line, you have gut hook, you have a guidebook. You know where the road is, where the bridge crossings are, what lays ahead. The moment you step foot off trail, it's just a whole different adventure. You're still getting the miles done. You're still getting to your destination, but you're adding just a little bit of unknown. And I think those are always the best days.
A little bit of unknown thrown into the mix makes things exciting.
Yep.
Okay. So there you have it. That's it. This episode is just about in the books. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with the Ramen King. Want to thank him for joining us this week. Ramen, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures? I know you mentioned this before. Let's talk about it again, though.
Yes. So my main Instagram that I just kind of post every summaries on my thru hikes is Sam_Ramen King _Conley, Conley. So that's the Instagram that I update the most. That's just my personal one with just classic Instagram stuff or trips. Like every time I do a thru hike or something like this, I always do a quick summary of the last section. People seem to really enjoy that. It's just 10 videos or photos with miles done, where I am, and a quick summary of each video photo. And then my photography Instagram that is updated less frequent is Sam through a lens. So Sam_THRU_A_lens. And then that's my photography Instagram. It's a whole mishmash of everything from trail photos to portraits to car photos to climbing photos. I think it's probably mostly climbing photos when I'm not hiking, just because that's when I photograph the most. But yeah, and then my website is the same thing.
Got it. Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com.
the adventure media recommendation.
Oh, so dramatic. Sam, I'm also looking for you to share a recommendation for a book, a movie, documentary, something out there that's going to help keep our listeners connected to the trail. We're calling this our adventure media recommendation. What do you have for us?
I briefly mentioned it before. I guess it's not really hiking related, but it was the Normocast. If you're a climber or enjoy climbing media in any way, that is a great climbing podcast. It's phenomenal. But I think that's probably one of the most listened to podcasts. I just love climbing. I definitely think I like climbing more than hiking, but you can't really climb for 5 months straight. And then movie wise, I just watched, I think it was called The Last Pui, yesterday on Disney Plus. It's Alex Honnold, Mark Sinnott, and Renan Onstark. They go to Guyana in South America with a biologist to go go try to find new species of frogs, because there's things called tapuis, which are like giant sky islands essentially. And during Pangea, when it split off, these tapuis were at the same level as Africa, and when they split off, it eroded around it. So the biology at the base of the mountain is completely different than what's up top, and essentially you can't get up top because helicopters can't reach there. Because it's so remote, you can't land a plane there. So they have to hike in, and they have to take these climbers in to climb this cliff to get this biologist up there, try to get the biologist up there. And they pretty much, I think in the filming of that, they discovered like 6 new species of frogs and stuff like that. And it's just like, it looks like a full-on adventure. I think in a podcast, I think on the Normocast, they talk about it where I think Renan or Mark Sinnott said it was more it was harder to do that than climb Everest.
Wow. Well, that sounds phenomenal. I'm going to check that out. Okay. And that brings us to our last segment.
What have we not asked you?
Oh, half cap got a little crazy there. Yeah. What have we not asked you? What have we left out that you're dying to tell us about? What did we miss?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess what I do in my spare time when I'm not hiking, which other than working is just climbing, just rock climbing or during the winter ice climbing. That's pretty much it. Got pretty nice climbing this year. Spent way more money than I should have, but that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Well, that's a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family, Ramen?
Yeah, shout out to my partner Trix, who is currently on the PCT, around, I don't know where they are right now, mile 200-ish, just over 200 mile-ish. If you see them out there, do some trail magic, get them a Snickers for me.
Okay.
Or some ramen, but vegetarian ramen, because they are vegetarian.
Okay. And is that Trix, Trix or CKS?
It is. Nope, Trix. Like
Trix. I don't know why I thought that, but there you go. Okay.
So, shout out to them.
Got it. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you've been following a hallucination off trail for over a log and an imaginary river crossing. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck. And I'm going to record that one more time because I screwed up that last segment there. So thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you've been following a hallucination off trail over a log, over an imaginary river crossing. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.